Hello and welcome to the seventh episode of A Woman Robbed, a bonus series from And the Runner-Up Is, where we talk about actresses who may have come close to earning Oscar nominations, but were ultimately overlooked or omitted, or for one reason or another, they just didn't have the votes to make it into the final lineup, and discussing why they may have deserved to get in and why they ultimately didn't. Each episode has its own theme, presented as a double feature, and this week we are talking about instances where an actress got a Best Actress nomination for one film while also having another worthy performance from that year that they could have gotten nominated for instead. And joining me today to help me break down two very prominent examples of this is one of the best. You last heard her on the main show talking about the Best Actress lineup of 1946, where we had a lot of fun breaking down movies like Brief Encounter and Duel in the Sun. My former colleague at Gold Derby, welcome back, Joyce Eng.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I blacked out Duel in the Sun somehow. I was thinking of Brief Encounter, but yeah, totally excised Duel in the Sun from my memory.
Yes, as many people may have wanted to do upon
Yes.
seeing it.
But thanks for having me back.
Yeah, and especially to talk about two iconic ladies, two
Two of
of my
my faves.
personal faves, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's just get right into it. So I presented to my patrons here at And the Runner-Up Is a list of 15 actresses who got Best Actress nominations for one film but may have been worthy of another. And just to recap the choices, we had Marion Cotillard in The Immigrant, Greer Garson in Random Harvest, Audrey Hepburn in Two for the Road, Katharine Hepburn in Little Women, Isabelle Huppert in Things to Come, Diane Keaton in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, Grace Kelly in Rear Window, Deborah Kerr in Tea and Sympathy, Nicole Kidman in The Others, Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns, Vanessa Redgrave in The Devils, Winona Ryder in Reality Bites, Barbara Stanwyck in The Lady Eve, Meryl Streep in Mamma Mia, and Kate Winslet in Revolutionary Road. And the winners were Nicole Kidman in The Others and Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And as always, I do like to reveal who was close to being chosen here. Grace Kelly, super close. Kate Winslet, Barbara Stanwyck, Audrey Hepburn all got their fair share of votes. I'd love to talk about all those down the line, but for now, we're here to talk about two true icons of our day, Nicole and Michelle.
This is a good pairing too, because
You're right.
they're both in the Batman verse.
This is very true.
And fun fact, the year of release of the films we're talking about, they were both 34 years old.
I did not know that particular fact. And you know what? This is what the Stats Queen is here for.
Oh yes, you bequeathed onto me Stat Queen, and I bequeathed onto you the Kevin Jacobson rule. So
yes, which I honor. So
I don't know if that really came into effect this year for the Emmys, the Kevin Jacobson rule.
Yeah,
I don't really have to invoke it that much.
that's fair.
That's a tangent.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like a Ana de Armas. I don't know if she was even submitted for SNL, but
I think she was, but that wasn't she wasn't a very viable contender, I don't think.
Fair enough. Season finale ended up being. So anyway, before we talk about these performances, would just love to know your overall thoughts on just Nicole Kidman and Michelle Pfeiffer as actresses before we talk about these specific performances.
I love them both. And Michelle, when she basically took a break, for a very long time, really.
Yeah, I know.
Just to chill out with David E. Kelly and her kids. Like, I really wanted to come back. And she did some movies here and there in the 2000s, like Hairspray and stuff. So I was very happy when she started her comeback.
The Pfeiffer Sans.
Yes, the Pfeiffer Sans with Mother! Exclamation point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this had Oscar buzz.
Yeah, and then, she also joined the MCU, Janet Van Dyne. So it was like nice to see her kind of like consistently working. She had French Exit. She was the best part of the Misbegotten First Lady series last year.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm happy she's acting again, and we have her back on our screens, because I think she's been so underappreciated, and obviously it was like by choice for her to take a break from acting, but she was really on fire in the late 80s, early 90s, this period. And she had some stuff in the late 90s too, but And then, there was White Oleander in
What Lies
2002.
Beneath.
Yes, What Lies Beneath. So I'm still hopeful that she can get back into like, on the Oscar radar at some point, maybe like sneak out a supporting win or something.
Yeah, why
And
not?
then Nicole, huge fan, always has been, or have been. And I love that we're gonna talk about her big 2001, because that was when she really leveled up
Yeah.
in prominence within the public sphere and also her career. And she is someone I've always felt should have more Oscar nominations than she does. And I feel like she consistently gets nominated for the wrong things. Even though I'm not a hater of her being the Ricardo's performance, but she's been snubbed for many, many great or better performances.
Correct. Yes. I mean, I also am not like a huge hater of Being the Ricardos, but it is very funny to me that 2 of her 5 nominations are for Lion and Being the Ricardos.
Yeah.
You have to laugh. But yeah, so I also love both of them, obviously. I also love how, once again, the patrons have chosen a very strong double feature where both of them, I think, all kind of fulfill a similar type as actresses, where they're like traditionally beautiful and getting these lead roles from an early age in their careers. And I think in both of these cases, we have a really good sort of demonstration of how these performances and the films that they're in, they could have been significantly weaker without having the 2 of them in these roles. And for as much as Oscar voters may have sort of turned up their noses, maybe just based on the genre nature of both of them, I think they could have been even sillier and like totally dismissed even more in another actress's hands. So I think in both cases, they're both elevating these roles, as they often do. And I also do think it's worth mentioning here, before we get into it, that I think with hindsight, people have discussed Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns getting into supporting actress for this. But I can confirm that she was pushed lead by Warner Brothers. So that is why she's qualifying for this discussion.
Yeah.
Whether we agree on that, we'll talk about it.
Borderline case, I think.
Yes, I think so. We'll talk about that, and maybe whether she split her own vote between lead and supporting. We'll get to that at the end, but the studio did in fact push her in Best Actress. So just saying that before I get any outraged replies about why we're talking about her in
Oscar
that context.
voters can nominate people in any category they want, so it doesn't really matter.
This is true. That's true.
Pushed. So as we know, with Kate Winslet.
Very true.
Keisha Castle Hughes. So
right. And apparently Lakeith Stanfield. But anyway,
no leads in that movie.
Yes, the is the lead. Anyway, let's talk first about Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns.
You're catnip to a girl like me. Handsome, dazed, and to die for.
Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it.
But a kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it.
So this is my first time talking about Michelle Pfeiffer, but I'm not going to do a super big introduction necessarily, because her actual Oscar nominations are soon to come on the main show. But I will just say, by this point, Michelle Pfeiffer is already a double Oscar nominee, her first being for Dangerous Liaisons, and then a year later for The Fabulous Baker Boys. Great time to be Michelle Pfeiffer right now, late 80s, early 90s, like you said. She also had Scarface and Grease 2 and
Married to the
Witches of
Mob.
Eastwick. Right, Married to the Mob, Frankie and Johnny even. I think she had a little buzz for. So really it was fitting into a lot of different genres and certain types of films. So she was one of those actresses who I think at this time was really on a lot of lists for just the best parts for younger women, including apparently to play Vicky Vale in Batman. But she was denied that, apparently because she and Michael Keaton had dated and broken up, and this was a time when he was trying to get back together with his ex-wife. So interesting, sliding doors moment. But little did he know that a few years later she would be in the mix for a very different kind of Batman role. But not entirely in terms of function within the story, I guess. But there were a lot of names in the mix to potentially play Selena Kyle / Catwoman, including, and this is a very long list, so brace yourself, Annette Bening, Sean Young, Susan Sarandon, Meryl Streep, Brooke Shields, Demi Moore, Nicole Kidman, Jodie Foster, Gina Davis, Sigourney Weaver, Lena Olin, Madonna, Raquel Welch, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Lorraine Bracco, which is my favorite inclusion there, Jennifer Beals, and Bridget Fonda. And Annette Bening was originally cast, but she had to drop out apparently because she got pregnant. So I will blame Warren Beatty for that. And Sean Young really lobbied for the part, but she was denied. And then Michelle Pfeiffer gets it.
She made her own costume, right?
She did.
Yeah.
And allegedly Tim Burton hid under the table.
Yikes.
Yep. But yes, Michelle gets it, and she obviously really runs with it. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Even though a lot of people have seen the film, I always got to do my introduction. Batman Returns is a sequel to the original Batman and is about Gotham once again being terrorized by villains, this time by Oswald Cobblepot, who was born with a physical disability and cast out by his parents. And penguins end up raising him in the sewers, and he is now looking to make a name for himself in Gotham City and tries to blackmail the local corrupt businessman Shrek. And Shrek's secretary is Selena Kyle, played by Michelle, who's very meek and withdrawn until she finds out about his shady business plan to build a power plant, and he pushes her out a window. At which point she gains these feline instincts and powers, including having 9 lives, and she adopts the persona of Catwoman, who is much more bold and wants to get revenge on Shrek, but then Batman keeps getting in the way, and there's some great sexual tension there. So, yes, let's talk this iconic performance, Michelle Pfeiffer, Batman Returns. This feels like one of those performances in films that just, like, everyone has seen. And from an early age, too, so it's like a very formative kind of performance in a way, and has endured, 30 years later. So tell me your relationship with just the movie and this great performance.
First, I don't want to correct you, but Selena was a lowly assistant, not secretary.
Okay, thank you.
She would correct you herself.
I apologize. Yeah. That's true.
I love this film. I saw it, I was 7 when it came out. So, and I remember really loving Selena and Michelle back then. I think like as a kid, when you watch it and her performance, you're just taken by like, wow, she's such a badass and she's so cool, right? And I think when you watch it later on, when you're older, you really appreciate the nuances in her performance and what she brings to the character. Because I think it on a surface level, it can really stand on its own. But it's also an instance of when, a creative deviates from the source material and it actually working really well, because the origin story in the comics of Selena Kyle is not this. Like she's just a cat burglar. She's just a normie, but here, like you said, like she gets pushed out the window and then she gets resurrected by cats. So there's like this supernatural element to it. And
very Spider-Man.
Yes, totally. And then like that, starts this transformation within her. So there's the duality of her performance, because like you said, she starts off as this like mousy, put upon assistant. And then she just becomes this, ruthless, strong, like devilish, ferocious Catwoman. And it's like she actually has agency at this point, and it's like her giving no fucks, and she's just embracing herself, her fury, her anger, and it's like her mad as hell and can't take it anymore, right? Yeah. And now she's like out for revenge, and she's here to take what she wants and what she thinks she deserves, and she's gonna take down the patriarchy, because they're the ones that's been abusing her and bullying her, literally pushing her out the window. It's definitely not the first time where we see this kind of transformation in media of someone going from weak and meek to strong and powerful. Like that, but I think it's very believable and it works because of her performance and the tones she can balance in this film, because she could do like high camp, right? Like there's it's a very campy performance, and she's also very funny. She has the best lines in the film, and there's a sensuality to Catwoman, and she brings that as well. And then she could also do the dramatic parts, the flirty parts, the romantic parts. And then there's like, she can also capture the bitterness of it, and without it being off-putting, right? Like you always understand her motivations, right? And you understand why she cannot take Batman's deal at the end when he's just like, don't kill Shrek, just come with me and we could be together, right? Because she, at that point, she still, even though they're the same, like they can't be together, and she cannot let another man sort of control her again, like she had in the past, you know? And it is like, I guess, like a good take sort of on how it's like it's a good portrait, I guess, of someone who's been so abused, and now you see the, like what happens to them when they break, right? Like her psyche is broken, and like that's another read of it. And then the costume, I think, you know, everyone talks about the black leather and it's like BDSM, but you know, it's like obviously she stitches it together and then it deteriorates as the film progresses, because that's like also some symbolic of her sanity, right? Like she's literally losing her mind, that like she's so pushed to the edge. So I like that too. Like it's like her mind and her costume are both becoming undone, you know? And yeah, I think it's a very great performance, and it's become, you know, I think the consensus is that it's the definitive take on Catwoman, and it is definitely my favorite on-screen like live action Catwoman. I think the future iterations of her performances, like, you know, like I love like Anne Hathaway, and like Zoe Kravitz was good too. Halle Berry did what she could with that, you know, but
that
I think
has
like
its own
those
issues.
yeah, that's a totally different story. But I think like those iterations, they kind of tamp down the unhingedness, I guess, of Michelle's Selena, and I think that's really what gives her performance the electricity, because there's this like danger and unpredictability and recklessness to her performance.
Much like a cat would be. I think this is an undeniable performance. I mean, it's not like a groundbreaking take, but like she is in full command of what she's doing, so confident and just playful, and just sort of like you're almost saying, like getting the right tone of like what the vision is, what Tim Burton's vision is, which is dark and committed, but still light at the same time, and like the right hint of camp. And it's always felt so fully formed to me that I feel like I have almost taken it for granted, this performance. And I don't know if anyone else could have really done it better. Like that long list of people, like maybe one or two could have matched it. Like I do think maybe Annette Bening could have been good. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh maybe could have matched that energy, but I think Michelle just has that sensuality and the wittiness too, and the playfulness and the face and the physicality, and like I don't know if I ever put it all together, like exactly why it came together in such a fully formed way until like this exercise. But I think it's the physicality and the attitude combined also with like the sort of discourse too, with like men and women around this time, where I feel like we had so many erotic thrillers, and there were like talk shows where there was a lot of public discourse over relationships and things like that.
This is the same year as Basic Instinct.
Exactly.
Too.
Right. There you go. But I feel like this version of Selena Kyle is really sort of playing off of that, like all her comments about her being alone and like having to deal with shitty men, and her line where she's obviously like, I'm Catwoman, hear me roar, that sort of thing. Like it feels like it's very much meeting the moment. And I just think it's wild that even though she's Michelle Pfeiffer and is like one of the most striking actresses that there's ever been, you just find yourself sort of identifying with her and rooting for her. And I just think she's just such a smart and instinctual kind of actress, that she's able to sort of put you in the position almost like of Bruce Wayne, where like there's that gray area between like, how do I really feel about her? Like, she's hero, she's villain, like, and she really rides the line of that beautifully.
Yeah, she definitely understood the assignment
More than anyone in
with
the
this.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do oftentimes wonder, like, what would Annette's Catwoman have been like? Like,
Yeah.
it would have been different, of course,
Mhm.
but I don't know. Like, it could have been equally as great, but I think it would have been different, and I don't know what the discourse would have been about it, you know. But now it's so hard to imagine anyone else playing Catwoman in this film this way.
Yeah.
After seeing her, yeah. So yeah, it just feels like she just immediately understood like who this character was,
Yeah.
and had a vision and a take on it, and was allowed to go through with it, because it doesn't seem like she was given a lot of notes, you know,
Yeah.
on like what to do with this. And yeah, I think, you know, it also, it's so broad, as in like broad appealing, right? I think it can appeal to different age groups and different genders as well too, and like the way people respond to it. And yeah, like you're saying, like I think she's an anti-heroine, right? It's like, because she is like working with Penguin for like a bit of the movie before sort of changing sides, but not really, you know.
Right.
And it's like you have sympathy for her. And I think one of the best scenes in like all the Batman films is her and Bruce at the ball when they both realize each other's identities. Like that is a great moment, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that, and it really kind of imbues like a humanity in her, and you understand what she's doing and why she feels like she must seek vengeance on Shrek, you know.
Yeah. And also just in those scenes with Michael Keaton, I do feel like you can sense that there is some history there. I don't know about you, but like when I read that, I'm just like, this all makes sense now, because there's just like a lot
You
going
can feel
on.
the sexual tension get cut
Yeah,
with a knife.
very much so. Thank you for listening to this preview of A Woman Robbed, a bonus series from And the Runner-Up Is. If you liked what you heard and want to hear more, please go to patreon.com/andtherunnerupis and become a patron. Only $3 a month will get you access to bonus episodes and early access to regular episodes. Thank you so much for your consideration.